I'd like to call Policies and Priorities Committee meeting to order Monday, May 10th, 2021. Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Lehman.
That all items on the Monday, May 10th, 2021, Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, April 12th, 2021, Policy and Priorities meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
The minutes of the Monday, April 12th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, Council? Staff? Thank you. Moving on to reports, 7.1. Unsightly premise concerns involving residential lots. A report dated May 10th, 2021 from the Director of Protective Services seeking direction regarding storage on rental lots in relation to unsightly premise concerns. Councillor Howe?
Just want to step out for this for
Thank you.
interest reasons there.
Yep, thank you. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirkowka.
Discussion?
Seconder. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I think it's something we should discuss. I think it's, staff's come forward looking for some concepts and some ideas in regards to what we'd like to see in the unsightly premises bylaw or what can be added. So I guess my first point would be is in regards to RV storage on front lawns. So you see it even now. So it was not only happened in the spring and summer, but it happened all winter long with certain residence parking trailers or RVs or whatever in the front lawns. To me, that handcuffs some of our staff's production when it comes to snow removal. Sometimes they're too close to the sidewalk, and to me that leaves a chance for a hit or that scrape by one of our machinery. So I think it's something we should be talking about. My thoughts are, I was trying to figure out the measurements, and then I asked Chief Curry about it. So I want to say it's 10 feet from the center line or thereabouts from the center line of the road, and is kind of what the district takes the property line or the right of way. And I think we should be looking at that we should enforce that there's no storage on that area. So whether it's RVs, boats, whatever it may be, that's just my thoughts on that part of the RV in that. Here at councils, I have lots actually, so I'm going to take up the whole time and listen to others.
Sure. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd like to follow up with Councillor Kukauka's comments about the RVs on front yards. There is numerous concerns that I have with that. One is with other residents trying to pull out and they're blind. They can't see where they're pulling out of their driveways. So especially when there's a sidewalk and you can't see people walking along the sidewalk, as well as the water lines mains that are on the front yards that public works can't get access to. So I think that's another concern, as well as when we do have the snowfall coming down onto people's driveways, and we do push it on there, as well as removing all the gravel, this kind of hinders that as well. And so we've got to go the opposite direction with this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So when we're saying front yards, we're meaning lawn, not driveways.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because a lot of people, you could specify front yards as being in front of the house where the driveway is in the front of the house. So in most residents in Tumblr only have that driveway in the front. They don't have access to the back. So just want to be clear that if it's in the driveway, it's fine. It's when you're parking on the grass that it's not. And of course, not on the street.
I agree with those, yeah. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, and I totally agree. It's a driveway. To me, when we talk about driveway, because you bring a good point about that. We had an Airbnb discussion in here, and it was talked about, I believe a motion was put forward and passed in regards to a hard service driveway that has to be supplied for any room that you rent out. Well, I think we should look at that as well. So to me, just because I have a parking stall at my residence does not mean that it follows our bylaw that states it has to be a hard surface. So that's asphalt and concrete, my idea. Is what we've just passed for Airbnbs. And I believe it's actually in our bylaw, you have to have hard service, and it's not just for Airbnb, it's for every residential. That came up from Council Howell in regards to Airbnb. I went out and paid my driveway right away because I didn't know it was in the bylaw. I'm not saying everybody can do that, but that was my concern right away. Holy geez, if we're gonna pass this through Airbnb, I'm not even following as a counselor, so I have mine paid last summer. So I think that should be stipulated too, that it's supposed to be a hard surface. And it's already in our bylaws, so, you know, I'm not saying go down and do the crackdown on residents, but to me, I think it should be something we start to, you know, I don't wanna say police, but, you know, friendly reminders. Like, you know, Councillor Majinski brought up one about the parking there and the frost lines on top of our water mains. We have that today. People use their grass as a second or third or fourth parking stall and constantly building down that snow line, which obviously sets the frost down. And I know a few residents in the community that have done that, and the town has to go up and unthaw their water lines. So, you know, I think that's why this discussion on, thanks to staff to bring it forward, but I'm not sure how staff wants us to put these in here, or what they want to hear, if it has to be all by motions, consensus, how would that like to be added? Because to me, we can talk about it, have some ideas from all council, but how do we enter these in so that staff can take that away?
Ms. Thompson, would you like motions on all of these, or are we just capturing the discussion and bringing forward a draft?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand, through council. So I think what we'll do, because we are at PPC, we will capture everything and record it without motion at this time. Discussion for it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Krukowka, did you want to bring forward another?
I'd like to see if anybody else, no, I mean, like I said, you know, I have a full page on this one.
Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think we need to have some bylaws with a little more teeth in regards to unsightly premises. And we need also to enforce these bylaws. I think we've been a little bit lax over ever since I've been here. I think there's a lot of places that it just doesn't look good. And I think at the same time, we also have to give the people enough notice so that they have a chance to move stuff, so that, you know, we make them aware of what's coming down.
Councillor Majinski.
Mayor Bertrand, in the report here, it says undeveloped lots. Are those owned by somebody and just not developed, or are they open lots that nobody actually owns?
It could be a bit of both.
Okay, so concerns there for sure, because what if something gets stolen or vandalized, who's responsible? So I think that should definitely be discussed as well in regards to building supplies, materials on property that's not fenced or in the open, of just clearing. Just an open lot, really.
Okay. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Yeah, I see around town on lots that may be purchased by the same owner that don't have another house on it. There's a lot of parking of old boats, trucks, campers, etc., that haven't been used. They haven't been licensed. They really haven't moved in years. So, you know, that is a concern as well. Or just storing of other equipment on lots that, you know, don't have houses, so it's an eyesore.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. You know, with the conversation moving towards the storage on lots, I mean, isn't storage space, isn't that something that's not classified as residential one? Like that would be like a commercial type of enterprise. So if like a percentage of a lot is being used as a storage yard, you know, it should be in a specific zone, right? I mean, that's at least where my mind goes to. Storage goes in storage, not in residential 1 or 2, right? So that's, you know, good comments by some councilors.
If they were using it as a business venture, or storing for a business venture, it should be in a commercial zone, yeah. Go ahead.
Good comments, but I think it's, there is a tipping point to where this should be in a storage area,
Sure.
right? So if somebody has, you know, 3-4 trucks and whatever, like there's a certain amount, right? And it's like, okay, you can, it's hard to define, but there is a limit, like, okay, this should be used in a storage yard or somewhere.
Sure, yeah. Councillor Krukowka.
Yeah, so I'll have a couple others here. Start on the bottom. Auto repairs in the front yard should quite simply not be allowed. I actually believe we have a bylaw now, and I don't believe it's under unsightly, but I could be wrong. But like people, we talk about, and I don't own one, but when other people had car washes in the community that I knew, they weren't allowed to take that stuff down to the landfill, or that could be contaminations in it. But we're allowing people to work on their vehicles in the front driveways, and stuff like that. Well, that stuff runs down their either their paved asphalt driveway, their gravel one, or their cement one, and runs right into our water system anyways. So I believe we actually have a bylaw for that, but if that needs to be done unsightly, or if that's a different one, then that's something we should be really looking at in regards to the auto repairs that are happening right in the front driveways, or in front of their houses. Like, again, I don't want to open up a can of worms, and I talked to Chief Curry too, and, but you know, like people were to do that in the backyard, I don't think it really matters. Like the chances of that getting all the way to the roadway probably slimmer than it is now if you're doing it on your main driveway. So I think it should be just maybe discussed. The other thing I have is commercial vehicles over 8,600 kgs should not be allowed in residential areas due to the strain and stress it causes on our asphalt. This is an existing bylaw, but needs to be enforced. So it's still happening. That was something we discussed. I don't want to say in this term, it might have been in the previous term, but it was a big concern with all these big trucks running around. And I understand it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that our economy is right now on a lot of the coal, windmills, even oil and gas still. But we should be not allowing those in our residential areas. I mean, that is putting a strain on our asphalt, underwater systems as well, any lines that run into roads. So I just think it's something that we should be, not saying enforcing or giving that direction, but definitely it should be on our radar. It shouldn't be, to me, complaint driven. I shouldn't have to call, hey, I see the truck parked beside me again. You know, I mean, I think we have great staff. I know I see bylaw drive around quite a bit in the evenings, certain nights, after 5 o'clock or 5:30. I think there's a few times a month she works. I see her out a lot, so I just, again, I think it's always just with the tickets, but doing the proactive stuff, right? Like, I mean, we're a small community. To me, we're one big family. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think I know everybody in town, but same thing as I don't want to see us clamp down where bylaw is starting to take huge complaints and she feels uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to see that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I marked down to bring up when I read through this.
Yep. No, go ahead, sorry. My apologies.
No, sorry, I'm not sure. I think it was Councilor Majinski brought it up, and it was in regards to storage on undeveloped lots. I believe most of the lots that would have any kind of storage on them would be lots that are owned. So I know a few areas, and I know Chief Curry and I talked again, and one of them is being cleaned up as we speak. And hats off to staff and the owner of the property that they were able to work together and have some of them moved around. But my understanding is there has to be a dwelling on there, a permanent dwelling before you let the store stuff. It's my understanding. Staff has probably the right terminology and I missed it. But we see that all around. There's one, you know, I mean, just down the road from me. There's a treat lot and it's got everything in there. Again, it's right now it's in there, it's not a big lot. So is that more that we need to discuss that we don't want it to be, and Chief Curry's already mentioned it, it's not always complaint driven. I don't want to keep saying it's complaint driven, because that's not true. And he explained that earlier that, you know, they do stop and talk to the owners if they know them or whatever, but that's another unsightly. You know, you go by a lot and just throw everything up there. I mean, Councilor Kirby mentioned boats, trucks, whatever, not insured and been there for decades. So if that can get captured, that's a good one. And again, I don't, like, when I talked to staff earlier, it seemed like needed consensus of like the majority of council agrees. And that's why I asked about doing motions or whatever, or just nodding their head. I mean, I think staff will capture it, but what happens if it's just me? Like, I don't want to speak for Councilor Norberry or Councilor Kirby. Like, if they don't agree with it, you know, they need to be spoken up, because I'd hate to be the one that has brought up a couple points, and because I brought them up, staff captured it, but that's not what your wishes are.
Yep.
As council.
Yep, no, I definitely understand. Councilor Kirby?
Mayor Bertrand, I agree with all of the items that staff have brought up to our attention. I think that the residents must be making complaints, or because these are all complaint driven, and if they're starting to become an issue, which we know they have been in the past, it's how we address it and prepare to probably need more staff to follow these bylaws that are going to be put into place or are going to have some action again.
Yep, Councilor Norberry?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Councilor Calvin, I just had a clarifying question. You were mentioning auto repairs. I Are you referring to like substantial extended auto repairs like in the report, or all? Because I mean, I think we're in a delicate balance there. We should be allowing something.
Counselor?
Yeah, I'm talking all, you wanna do an oil change, do it back here. You know, I have pictures of oil coming down someone's driveway when they're doing an oil change, that again goes into our stormwater, drainage. And we're telling the car washes, I don't wanna use anybody else that has other business, but I've heard from other businesses, they can't even take stuff down to our landfill because it may be contaminated. Well, when we allow mechanics to work in the front lawns, that is definitely contaminating if there's a leak. So we have businesses here that can't do it, but we're allowing residents to do oil changes and everything else along, and it may leak down into our thing. If they wanna do the backyard, I think it gives that enough time that it seeps into their ground. Now they have a contaminated ground that they get to deal with, not the district dealing with contaminated stormwater.
Counselor Norby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I mean, you know, when we're looking at, we're talking about potential contaminant leaks, there's a point there. But I think we need to allow for some basic maintenance repair of people's vehicles. I mean, I wouldn't attempt an oil change, but I understand they're pretty simple for most people. Or like, say, if you want to change a tire or change a fuel pump or something relatively simple that the average person can do, I think should still be allowed to. And if we do an all-encompassing, only in your backyard, we're going to be limiting that ability for some people. And I think everyone has a right to do that. So I think like staff in the report says substantial and extended duration. I think that is true. We don't want people having a mechanic doing an engine swap or something that takes multiple days, or a derelict vehicle sitting out there. Basic stuff. Takes a day, maybe two. Should be allowed.
Yeah, I agree with you, Counselor. Counselor Majinski?
Yeah, I think that's where the unsightly premises comes into play when you're doing substantial engine swaps or transmission rebuilds or whatever in your front yard or driveway, where it's going to be sitting for longer than, say, an oil change, which generally takes an hour or so, right? So, and as long as people are mindful and cognizant of not letting stuff go down the drain, like transmission fluid or coolant or oil, you know, and it's all contained, and it's not on the front yard where it can seep into the ground there, or and it's flowing down your driveway, I think that should be definitely a no-no and a no-go. And that's easy to see too when it does happen, right? So you can't argue the fact that you got, 8 liters of oil going down your driveway.
True. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with all these issues that staff has brought forward. And I want to thank staff for bringing it forward. I do appreciate that, and looking for our guidance as well. It is obviously starting to become an issue, and I think we really need to have a hard look at our bylaws and start enforcing them, or if we're not going to enforce them, there's no point in having them. I've heard a lot of frustration from residents that we have certain bylaws and we're not doing anything about it. It's like it's a piece of paper, but we're not doing anything about it. So, yeah, I do agree with all of these. And thank you to staff. Any other comments? Councillor Kirkcalka?
Yeah, and again, it comes back to RVs, and we talked about in regards to the front of your lawn or whatever, not your driveway, not your hard built driveway, asphalt or concrete. The other concern I have is the RV parking on the street. We do have a bylaw for that, and I do think it should be allowed temporarily. I mean, there's some people that can't get, they have big RVs, and I mean, good on them to be able to get out in the backcountry and enjoy their weeks or their weekends. And, they get a load up at the front, I totally get that. But I mean, there's been, last summer was probably one summers I really noticed it bad, but it's a safety concern. It's not just safety for emergency vehicles or public works guys, but just anybody, kid darts out or whatever. Sometimes they're put in the wrong spots, and there's some that sat through the whole summer long disconnected from a vehicle. So, I think, again, just proactive on that part of it. I mean, I think most people understand it, and it's hard. Not everybody has a spot to park in your own hard surface driveway, but, they got to find other means, and there is other means in community. I know of 5 or 6 different places you can put a trailer or a boat or whatever. I mean, everybody stays with their own finances, but I think that needs to be something that we look at, or staff looks at over the summer, is a proactive thing. So it is a safety concern.
It is,
kids start
absolutely.
out, and we can say it's a parent's job to make sure they kids move quick, man. Kids, I don't care how little they move quick, it's unreal how quick they move. So I just think that's another thing I noticed here, especially last summer.
Yeah, I agree. It is a safety concern in my opinion. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. One question about hard surface driveways. Are we allowing like a crush, like a gravel driveway? Is that still good?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm not exactly sure what is in our bylaw. If you give me 1 second, I'll see.
Okay.
I'll pass it over to Chief Curry. Thank you, Chief Curry.
Evening, Your Worship, Council. So in the zoning bylaw currently defines that off-street parking is to be built of a surface of asphalt or similar. So not crush. However, we have had crush that has been put down with sealant afterwards and actually sealed for the dust control. But just to have a gravel driveway is not permitted in the bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkowka?
Yeah, and I see why. So I won't say it was crushed with a seal on it, but many of us hand tap. Mine never moved, but the problem you see with just gravel is it actually ends back up on our streets or ends back up on our sidewalks. And, driving around or even, living where I am or own the business I do, I mean, this year, man, the town's done a bang up job on Sweet Street. And you can tell anybody that's been parking on their lawn and hauling that mud back onto the road or if they have a gravel driveway, you can see it all over town. Like the town has done an amazing job of sweet sweeping, and I think we need to do our job. We ask Airbnbs to make sure that if you're renting out 2 bedrooms in your house, or 3 extra bedrooms, whatever it is, that you have a hard service for your clients to park. So, I mean, if it's just crushed up that Chief Curry mentioned, I'm fine with something like that. But maybe not the gravel or mud.
Any other comments? Okay. Thank you again to staff for bringing that forward. Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, 7.2, land sale criteria. Report dated May 10th, 2021 from the Director of Corporate Services with criteria to be used when considering land sale of district-owned property abutting private property. Recommendation, please. Councillor Liebman.
The council receives the land sale criteria report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Kirkowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Lehman, did you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think it's time we had a sort of a plan of where people are going to be allowed to perhaps extend their property line and also figure out where it's not going to be possible. So I think we're very limited where people can actually do this, but some of the recommendations and some of the ideas that staff has, I think, cover a lot of it, but I think there's going to be more work needed to try and cover all the bases.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Councillor Lehman brings up some good points. One of the things that I would personally like to see when we're looking at these as a one-off is, and I think it would be good information for people, is that that sort of map that we had, where it had the zones that are agreeable for development, because there are some, looks like clear places to develop, and there's some that are a clear no-go. And I think that should be out there maybe to filter down the results or the people asking. Because we already know up top there's issues with water, so you're probably not going to be able to go 50 feet back there, but when we're looking closer to the middle bench, there's that green belt there that you can shave off some for people, right? So those are some things that I think I would like to see. It's having some more defined barriers to people.
More
So
structure.
filter it down to us, right?
Yep.
Funnel it down, excuse me.
Yeah, with a map. Any other comments? Councillor Howell?
I think the defined map is a great